Hey guys, Dark Tellarius here. Regular Tellarius was banned on his main account, so Evil Tellarius is here. I'm the same Tellarius, just I have black hair. Okay, and as you can see, I'm through 58 eye level. This is an alt account. On an alt Demon Hunter, I just got to 120, so I have almost no gear. I have a Thrash Blade though, so if this was classic, whew, I would be... People see that, they'd be scared. Anyways, let's jump right into the guide. I'm going to be going over your PvP talents, your PvE talents, your stat priority, and your enchants. I won't be going over Azurite traits and essences in this video. Reason being, if I do it, this video will be 5 million years long. And I do look at my YouTube metrics, and I can see how long people tend to stay tuned to the video itself. They tend to kind of just get the information they want, learn whatever they want, and then they leave. Keeping it around a 20-minute video is definitely going to be best. Alright, so let's go over your level 99 tier talents. Right off the bat, is Blind Fury, Demonic Appetite, and Fel Blade. And for each of these talents that I go over, I'm not just going to be going over this is the best, this is the worst, this is the worst, right? I'm actually going to be explaining individually why each one is better than another and in different situations where you can get value out of them, along with what builds they combo together well with. So in your first tier, you have your Blind Fury. This is a very powerful ability. It's something you want to be using against cleave comp, so a double melee comp. However, you want to be using it against a melee comp that doesn't actually target you. Reason being, if you're popping your Blind Fury on a target, what ends up happening is they'll just start kicking it and they completely negate this talent. So for a 15-second cooldown kick, they can shut down your damage completely. But if you can get it off on both of them, it's essentially like having two fully powered I-beams. Very powerful. You want to use this with your demonic build because it'll cap out your fury. So when you do come out of that I-beam channel, you'll have max fury and you can start slamming people immediately. You don't have to wait. Very good combination. The rest of the talents are quite standard. However, these two are what combo together the best. On to Demonic Appetite. Now, Demonic Appetite this season is still very powerful. It's not as good as because the current meta for Demon Hunter isn't based around fatigue comps anymore like it used to be. It's currently more about single target DPS, how much pressure you can get out, and kind of quick pace thinking with essences, giving all that extra damage and survivability. However, this is still very powerful in duels, very powerful in 2v2, in 1v2 situations, very powerful threes as well if you're playing the right comp, you know, something that fighting against something very tanky, and like if you're fighting an enemy team that is very fatigue oriented, let's say Ellie Destro, well then Demonic Appetite will be very good because it will really enable your healer to save on mana by you just healing yourself so consistently. A good build to go with Demonic Appetite is of course Soul Rending and Demonic. These all synergize together to give you an absolutely crap load of healing. And of course you take, when it comes to your PvP talent for this build, you want to be taking Solitude or maybe Unending Hatred. Reason being, of course, is because these actually substitute that lack of fury you're generating, that inconsistency, because you can be very lucky with Demonic Appetite or very unlucky, and these make up for that completely. You'll be fury capped the entire time. Fel Blade. So Fel Blade's a very powerful ability. It's a gap closer. So this allows you to stick on a target more consistently, and when paired with Demon Blades, okay, this is definitely something you'll want to be pairing it with, you can have a lot of consistent uptime on a target. So if they dash away, all you have to do is jump to them, and then when they dash away again, let's say they're an Arcane Mage, Arcane just got buffed, so you'll see quite a few of them in arenas now, you still have 2 dashes to stick onto the target. Alternatively, if you're very far away and you need to get to a target, you can always just do a kind of, you know, like retreat into a fel rush. So as you can see, I covered like 50 yards there by retreat into a Fel Blade, and then you still have 2 fel rushes for after that gap closes, so they still can't get away. Gives you a lot of uptime. Because you have Demon Blades, that means the higher your haste, the more procs you're going to be getting. Synergizes extremely well with Solitude and extremely well with Demonic, because every time you press I-beam, as you can see, you're getting that 25% increase to your haste stat, along with whatever haste traits you have on your Azurite gear, you know, that's going to increase your haste. That means during that Demonic, you're just going to be auto-attacking so quickly, your Demon Blades is going to be proccing, plus you're going to be getting the Solitude attack speed. Are you getting more attack speed from Solitude, but then also Demonic? So all synergizes extremely well to give you a very high consistent single target pressure spec. And this build, Fel Blade, Demon Blades, Demonic, typically what you're going to be seeing most of the time in 2s and most of the time in 3s at high rated arena for most Demon Hunters on EU and on NA. Insatiable Hunger, unfortunately it isn't that great. It's essentially the legendary ring from Legion, which wasn't that great by itself as an individual piece anyways, but it's still crap now. Don't take it. It just doesn't give you enough consistent fury generation, because major fighting, he roots you, guess what, you're generating no fury. Immolation Or on the other hand, of course, when paired with Demonic Appetite or Blind Fury, very good. Reason being, it gives you exactly the opposite of Insatiable Hunger. It gives you powerful consistency. So if I get rooted here on this diagonal, if I'm stuck in this root here, guess what? I can still generate fury so that by the time I get out of this route, I can get on the target. I'll have enough fury to instantly start doing damage. Or I don't have to wait. I don't have to run up, auto attack, demon's bite, or whatever. I can just immediately start doing damage. So it keeps your uptime at its peak in most situations. Along with, you know, a little bit of good AoE damage. You also want to be popping this before you meta, like the global before you meta, or the global before you I-beam. Reason being is because you will be generating fury the entire time while you I-beam, and so that 1 second you get an extra tick, and while you're in the demonic you won't have to rely on RNG procs for your fury generation because you'll be having this immolation aura just giving you straight up healing the entire time. Onto the 102 tier. Unfortunately, there's only one real viable option, but I will go over Fel Mastery and Fel Barrage and how you could get value out of them if you wanted to. You could play them. I'll go over Fel Barrage first. So Fel Barrage, issue with this talent is it's a channeled 1 minute cooldown ability that does mediocre damage at best, okay? It's essentially like a shitty essence. However, you can do a lot of AoE pressure in RPGs or something like that with this, but the best way to use this, of course, to avoid getting kicked is going to be to either retreat, then channel it and inch forward, or to meld channel it. This way they drop target so they can't kick it most likely, or you want to bait out their kicks beforehand, so you either have to pay attention to their kicks and their CCs. The issue with it is that if they kick you during this, they use a 15-second kick CD to completely negate your 1 minute cooldown ability. That's how much value they get out of quotation marks outplaying this ability, which isn't really an outplay, it's just their pressing kick. So if you combine this with focusing iris, first if you AoE stun 3 targets, if AoE stun, you know, 3 targets, this is just 2 targets over here, but if AoE stun 2, and then you Fel Barrage, and you I-beam and focusing iris, you can take an entire team down to 10% HP if you can pull off that enormous combo, which I've done before, but it's really hard to set up, and once the team realizes that you're doing it, they'll just shut it down every single time. Fel Mastery. This is a talent that recently got buffed, alright, from 100% to 110%. Not very many people realize that it got buffed, and the tooltip only recently got changed to 110% as well. It essentially just makes your, it's kind of like the old Monk Chi Torpedo. It makes your Fel Rush do a little bit of damage, right? It's not the best damage, it's just a little bit of damage, and I missed both of those. Great. Great timing for the video. Anyways, for this ability, of course, it's not that great, but it can be useful in AoE situations. It just gives you that extra little bit of chase down power when you're on a target, and if you were playing Fel Mastery, I would play Fel Blade Demon Blades, because if you're going to be sticking on a target, so you Fel Blades to them, they blink away, you dash onto them, so you get that extra bit of damage from your Fel Rush, just blinking straight onto them. You know, they don't really expect it. You gotta keep in mind your Fel Rush without this does about 2,000 damage. With it, it does about 5,000 damage. Your Trail of Ruin already does 5,000 damage as a dot. So this already does slightly less damage than, you're getting 5,000 straight up from this, and you're gaining 2,500 from this. Both of them are AoE, so it's very clear in every situation that Trail of Ruin would be better DPS. Does that make sense? Onto the 104 tier talent. Soul Rending. Alright, so Soul Rending, very powerful. It gives you a lot of self-healing. This allows your healer to save on mana throughout the fight, and when combined with Demonic Appetite, when combined with other self-healing abilities like Demonic, Soul Fragments from Azerite traits, what ends up happening is your healer never has to heal cleave damage, so they get ahead on mana while you're mana sucking the enemy team. So it's like a double value kind of scheme. Very powerful. You want to combine this with Demonic. You don't really want to play this unless you're playing with Demonic, because the 10% isn't very powerful by itself, but when you're in demon form, it really stacks up quickly. Desperate Instincts, very powerful ability. This is something I would take versus an RMP when I'm unsure if I'm going to live. If they're a very good RMP, they can kind of swap at any time and kill anybody. It doesn't really matter who they're on. This allows you to just leave your blur alone. You don't have to touch it, and when you're using Desperate Instincts in combination with the Safeguard Trinket, you are essentially unkillable. It'll give you a 100k shield plus a 35% or 50% damage reduction. Will essentially make you unkillable even if they spell steal the shield away or purge it, which again is unlikely. So you get more value out of Desperate Instincts in that situation, unless you're very good and you can preemptively use a blur while using Soul Rending, so you can blur at say 80% HP, so that you have that damage reduction for a large margin of HP instead of a small margin where they can just kill you through it. Netherwalk. This is the highest risk, highest reward talent, where Desperate Instincts has the least amount of risk and the overall least amount of reward. Soul Rending has a lot of reward but the most risk, and this has a lot of risk and a lot of reward. So Netherwalk, if you can, for instance, you see a bolt flying through the air, press Netherwalk. By the way, you can bandage while you're Netherwalked. What I like to do is I like to use my essence, my rank 3 essence on my main D8. I like to essence myself in the Netherwalk and then bandage. So I essence myself, I get a 30k heal, and then I get a 5k heal every 2 seconds for 8 seconds. So while that's ticking, I bandage, and they can't stop any of this. My health will go from from 10% HP to 70% in the nether walk just from my own healing. That's how ridiculous that combo is. Be sure to bandage when you nether walk whenever you get the chance to. Cannot be stopped unless you're CC'd, but typically they won't CC you in the nether walk anyways. You can also preemptively use this on a kidney shot. You see the rogue vanish, sap your healer, you can just press nether walk. That means he's going to immediately kidney you or cheap you, so you'll just be safe. Has a lot of outplay potential, but it's very hard to pull off. The 106 tier Cycle of Hatred unfortunately is very inconsistent. It's relying on the RNG of your Chaos Strike, and in PvP you typically don't want to be taking any talent that's inconsistent. You want consistency. First Blood. Now, First Blood is a talent that I hate to love. The reason why this is so good is number one, you get free damage from your Trail of Ruin. Blood. So it's just a damage increase straight up. It's also AoE. It also increases your single target damage and increases your defensive ability by reducing the cost of Blade Dance. What does this mean? Well, it means that you can be using your Blade Dance defensively, whereas typically before, for instance in Legion, you wouldn't take First Blood in PvP. You would have First Blood, you would never take First Blood, you'd only use your Blade Dance defensively. You know, you'd use it if you see a warrior charge you, Blade Dance right at the last second of that charge, he doesn't get the Mortal Strike off or the execute or something like that. Or you see a rogue vanish, you Blade Dance right before a cheap shot, so you dodge the cheap shot. Stuff like that, right? You see his kidneys off cooldown. This kind of removes that because you're just spamming it off cooldown. You get a damage increase. You're also just spamming out parries every 6 seconds or every 8 seconds, whatever your haste is. Of course, your haste reduces the cooldown of your Blade Dance. Keep that in mind, guys. That's why it reduces in cooldown when you pop out Metamorphosis. It's just very good. Gives you good AoE, good dot, very powerful. You want to combine this with Demonic, of course, because you get your Annihilation and your Death Sweep while in demonic form, and your First Blood of course stacks on damage on top of that. Dark Slash. This is an ability I actually quite like. Has the old Sinister Strike. It has a lot more thought process put into it, where you're essentially playing the old Arms Warriors Colossus Smash spec in Mists of Pandaria, where you're kind of like, you build your Fury to max, or you play Blind Fury. You build your Fury to max, pop Dark Slash, and then you pump out damage for that 8 seconds. If you didn't realize, Dark Slash 8 lasts for 8 seconds, and guess what? Your Demonic lasts for 8 seconds too. So you want to be combining Dark Slash with Demonic. Now this is a very high single target build, but it's easy to outplay because they can see the Dark Slash debuff, they just run away from it, right? It's very easy. However, in my opinion, there's two ways to play this. You either want to play Dark Slash with Demonic, you need to play it with Demonic for sure, and you want to play it with either Blind Fury or Demonic Appetite. Now both of these are viable in different situations. Blind Fury will allow you to pop your I-Beam, it'll allow you to pop your I-Beam, and then press Dark Slash right out of it at max Fury and start spamming Annihilates, right? And the Dark Slash, even though it says Chaos Strike, it actually increases the damage of your Annihilation in Demon, so that's a good combo as well. Pretty much every I-Beam you can get out of Dark Slash, Demonic, I-Beam, Max Fury, dump it all into a Dark Slash for that 40% damage increase to your Annihilation. That's powerful as well. Or you can go for the slightly more consistent approach, which is higher risk, high reward, which is Demonic Appetite. Now you're going to be relying on the Fury refund of your Chaos Strike plus Demonic Appetite put together. So you'll be summoning Soul Shards, and potentially you can get really lucky and you can just spam out like a bazillion Chaos Strikes for free during Dark Slash because you'll keep getting procs of Demonic Appetite. But that's more of a 1v1 version of the spec, whereas for 3s for Dark Slash, I would definitely take Blind Fury in almost every situation. Keep in mind, you don't typically need the dot when you're not playing First Blood, so you could play Fel Mastery. I wouldn't play Fel Barrage. I would play Fel Mastery with the spec as well. It just gives you a little bit more consistent pressure you don't have to worry about while you're focusing on your Dark Slash. Of course, Dark Slash isn't the best ability in this build, in this tier. The 108 tier. For the 108 tier, you have your Unleashed Power. Of course, very strong. This is a talent I would typically take if I'm up against a multi-pet class, such as an Holy Death Knight or a BM Hunter. Reason being, let's say a DK pops his Apocalypse, his army, you can Chaos Nova every single army. They have the same cooldown, and you get an AoE stun, so you're not only peeling the pets, alright, so you're stopping their damage, you're also getting Soul Fragments, because your Chaos Nova per target hit has a 30% chance to summon a Soul Fragment, which will heal you for 20k. So you heal yourself to full almost every time you pop Chaos Nova, plus you're peeling for your healer and yourself. So you get kind of double the value, and it's these kind of situations that I'm trying to teach you guys about how to get value out of your different talents. And this isn't just for Demon Hunter, but of course on my channel it is. Master of the Glaive. So Master of the Glaive, it's a powerful ability, alright, unfortunately it's a talent, just a slow, and you have 2 charges of Master of the Glaive, so this gives you a consistent slow. This is something I would typically only take if I'm playing with a class that doesn't have a slow, which typically you won't, most every class does, except for DH. If you're playing with a Destro Lock, for example, Master of the Glaive can be quite good, because he has roots, he has stuns, he has a Disorient in his coil, he has all this crazy instant CC. Your Master of the Glaive gives that extra little bit where between those CCs when they're trying to waddle towards the lock or they're trying to run away, they really can't because they're permaslowed. So it's very good in these situations. You can also take this and let's say there's a Holy Paladin running along. You can just focus target Master of the Glaive him before he gets to your healer, slow him 50% or make him pop a freedom. Another situation you could use Master of the Glaive in a good way, but that's just my take on it. Fel Eruption, very powerful talent, good for peeling, good for damage, good, especially good in combination with Mana Rift. Reason being, of course, every single Fel Eruption you can get off a full Mana Rift. However, if they're playing Relentlessness, you will keep in mind, if they are playing Relentlessness, just keep in mind, you will have to pop an I-Beam, stun, and then Mana Rift in that order. Haste from your Metamorphosis actually decreases your GCD low enough that you can get off the Mana Rift right after the stun, quick enough that the Relentlessness can't take effect. However, if they are an Orc and they're in Ghost form, they will be able to avoid this. And another way to get out of it, Purge. So you purge away their Ghost form, then you stun, Mana Rift, retreat. So they're not in Ghost form, which means they don't have an immunity to slows, and you just Vengeful Retreat them, which slows them by 70% in the Mana Rift. So you don't even have to waste a stun if you don't want to. This can just work by its own sometimes. Literally just, you know, waiting for them to start cast something, Mana Rift slow, and they'll have to take it or they'll have to finish their cast. They have the choice. Okay, for the 110 tier talent, you have Demonic, you have Momentum, you have Nemesis. Demonic, of course, the best talent in this tier by far, in my opinion. It's very powerful. It gives you it gives you healing, so it's a good defensive ability. It gives you damage, gives you AoE. It gives you so much for so little, and it's just a passive, so it's extremely easy to use. It's something you'd want to use in almost every single build that I've previously mentioned. It is powerful, but it's really up to you in the end. I would definitely recommend using Demonic. Momentum. Now, Momentum is something a little tricky. I would want to be using Momentum in a Fellblade Demon Blade build because you already have Immolation Aura in most other builds. However, Momentum has a little Immolation Aura-like effect. Every time you Vengeful Retreat, you'll gain a lot of Fury. Just watch my Fury skyrocket from this prepared Fury generation. So this makes up for your lack of Immolation Aura immediately, right? So you're thinking, okay, that's pretty good. It also reduces the cooldown of your retreat by 5 seconds. So you have a quicker Immolation Aura technically. It's a 20-second cooldown Immolation Aura, and it removes slow. So you're a bit more mobile overall. But you now lack that self-healing from Demonic and that burst. This is something you'll typically be taking for high consistent damage outside of your Demonic form, but in BFA, typically all your damage is in Demonic form, which is unfortunate. Of course, you can just stack damage with this by using Fel Mastery. Of course, it's a 15% damage increase every time you Fel Rush, and of course, Fel Mastery increases your Fel Rush damage, so it's going to be hitting for like 6k. Yes, it's 5.7k, which isn't too bad, especially when you're hitting multiple targets, but it's, again, not very powerful, though. I'm going to be doing more experiments with Momentum just for fun. I want to see how much damage it can do overall. Nemesis. Now, Nemesis is a problematic ability. It's not as good as it once was. It says it lasts for a minute, but it really lasts for 30 seconds in PvP. This means is it's also reduced from a 30-second or 20% damage increase to a 15%. So it's nerfed in PvP quite heavily. But that's not even the biggest issue. It's when you use Nemesis on a target. Here, I'll show you right now. Pop Nemesis, it debuffs them with this big fat red buff, and any healer or players can be like, I wonder who they're gonna hit. It's pretty goddamn obvious at that point. So it's very easy to be mentally prepared for it. It's like how boxers say, if you're not looking and a punch hits you in the jaw, you'll get knocked out. But if you take that hit in the same way, but you know it's coming, you don't get knocked out, right? I don't know who said that. Alternatively, it can just be Blessing of Protection off or Immunity off, which is another issue with its consistency in PvP. Now onto the PvP talents. We'll start with the Gladiators Medallion tier, and we'll go down from there. I'm not going to be going down each one, but I will go down each single one of these individually, and then I'll go with certain combos they can go together for you guys. So you have your Gladiators Medallion, very powerful. It just straight up gives you a 2-minute cooldown trinket. Now this is typically only good in the hands of someone who is very good with their trinkets. You need to know when to trinket and when not to trinket. Even if you're stuck in a CC forever, typically it's not going to be the best time to trinket. Most players in top tiers don't take trinkets unless they're a healer, and there's a big reason for that. It's because Relentless, when you have a really good healer that knows how to dispel CCs extremely well, you can get way more value out of Relentlessness than you can a trinket. I would recommend, if you're new to Demon Hunter, take Relentlessness, try whatever you want to, but typically only if you have a really good healer will you be able to get a lot of value out of Relent, and you might find yourself just dying outright. Adaptation, unfortunately, isn't that good, and the reason being is because it's extremely easy to outplay. So I'll give you an example of what I would do versus a player who had Adaptation, just to give you guys insight into how someone, not super pro, but let's say as an example, a Gladiator, because I'm a Gladiator, Demon Hunter, Multi-Gladiator, how a Gladiator will see someone who has adaptation. Oh, they have Adapt. That means I'm not going to Chaos Nova them. Why? Because Chaos Nova is a 6-second stun. However, if I see someone with Adapt, what I'm going to be doing is, let's say this is an R Druid, and I'm like, okay, I want to kill him, I want to double stun him to death. Right, I want to outplay his adaptation. So I incap with Detainment. It's a 5-second CC. What does this mean? It means that it procs his adapt. So I proc it for free. I'm not even incapping him for any other reason other to get rid of his adapt. Then I can Nova, do my damage rotation, and then Fel Eruption right out of it. So I can get a double stun, kill him. A rogue will think the exact same way. What they'll do is instead of opening with a cheap, maybe they'll just blind him. Oh, use skin? Okay, I'll just blind you. That pops adaptation. Then they instantly go into a kidney, cheap dead. Alternatively, if they don't want to use blind, what they'll do is they'll start with a kidney shot because it's a 4-second CC, and then they'll go into a kidney shot of 3 seconds, and then into a cheap shot in that way. So cheap, kidney, cheap, instead of kidney, cheap to kill. Into a Garrote, of course. So it's very easy to outplay and very easy to find yourself in a situation where you'll just die. As a healer, as a DPS, you can just instantly die with adaptation. Now, against certain comps, maybe Ret Hunter, you could find yourself using an adaptation if you're playing with a class like a Demon Hunter or a Ret that can get you out of CCs regardless, just so you have the best uptime possible. Only be going for healers, and only if you're playing with another class, because the Demon Hunter, I can reverse magic a trap so that he doesn't have to proc, so he can adapt. Let's see the Hodge, he gets trapped, I reverse it, right? So get rid of both those CCs. Or if you're playing with a Ret, the Ret removes the Hodge and then he adapts the trap. So in either scenario, your adaptation gets a lot of value, but it's high risk. So we'll start with Solitude. So Solitude's a very powerful PvP talent for Demon Hunters. Of course, it synergizes extremely well with Demon Blades because it straight up gives you 10% attack speed, which then increases your Demon Blades proc, and then also gives you 10% more Fury, which then increases your Demon Blades procs and the Fury they generate. So you're getting more Fury from the procs and more Fury from each individual proc. Of course, it does synergize again well with Demonic Appetite and Immolation Aura, not quite as well because it increases the Fury from both of these, both the Soul Fragment and the Immolation Aura over time. It's a very powerful ability. I use this in 2s, or I use it in 3s if I'm fighting with a caster on my team who's ranged DPS. That way I'm always away from my caster, so I'm always getting the benefit from Salt. Reverse Magic, very powerful, especially in this meta against Rogue Mage Priest. You can use this on yourself to get out of a root, right? You don't even think about that most of the time. You have a Maledict on yourself or a healer, you can dispel the Maledict off of yourself or the healer. There's so many uses for Reverse Magic. You can remove the Polymorph, you can remove the Hodge. There's so many possible uses for Reverse Magic that I would recommend using this. However, as a Demon Hunter, especially if you're new, you won't want to be taking this because it's going to be too much to think about. All right, there's a lot of things to think about in World of Warcraft. Eye of Leothoris. This is a talent I find tricky to use, but as you gain experience as a Demon Hunter, you will find situations to use it in 1v1s and 1v2s and 2v2s and in 3v3s. In 3v3s, in a few high ranked games I've played, quite funny, I've actually been able to put an Eye of Leothoris on a Boomy. We're fighting an Ellie Boomy team, and the healer doesn't realize it, neither does the Boomy. So he just keeps spamming out instants and starts chunking himself. Nobody notices though, really. It's like, whatever, it's cleave damage. And by the time the healer notices that one's hurting him, the cooldown actually finishes, and I can put another one up on the main kill target as well. So you just have Eye of Leothoris up the ass everywhere, and everyone's taking 5% HP of their health and shadow damage every second or so. It's ridiculous. However, it is easy to simply dispel. Alternatively, you can use it like Maledict, where it's like you melee someone, okay, they dispelled it, now you can Eye of Leothoris guaranteed, right? And they can't dispel that one. In a 1v1 situation, let's say against another Demon Hunter, you see him pop Rain from Above. Typically, you want to either meld the Rain from Above, or if you have a dot on yourself, you want to Eye of Leothoris it. So if he jumps into the air with Rain from Above, throw your Eye of Leothoris on him, and then Rain from Above with him. So you match his Rain from Above with yours, plus he has Eye. So you're going to be hitting him for 6% for her Fel Lance from Rain from Above, plus the Eye of Leothoris is going to be hitting him for 5% every time he does it to you. So he'll be taking 11% every single time you Fel Lance and he Fel Lances. So clearly you're going to get way ahead in that Rain from Above exchange, right? It's like Dragon Ball Z, you're shooting blasts at each other in the air. Very powerful, but situational. Mana Rift, another talent you'll definitely want to be taking this season. Very powerful. How you want to use this is you want to be you Eye Beam into a Fel Eruption, and then you Mana Rift. That's like the typical combo. However, you can, for instance, incap for 3 seconds. You can incap for 3 seconds and then Mana Rift and then Vengeful Retreat, and that'll do the same thing unless they pop a freedom or a movement and speed increase. Then they actually lose that. They lose that movement speed increase, right? So you get a value out of it anyways. You can use Chaos Nova in the same regard as Fel Eruption, or you can use Detainment for the 5-second CC. On the last 2 seconds of the Detainment, you pop a Mana Rift on them. You'll still get the Mana Rift as soon as they come out of the Detainment. They won't be immune to it. It takes a little bit of practice and timing though, especially when things are flying all over the place. Mana Rift. We'll go to Demonic Origins. This talent was nerfed. It used to have a 5% damage increase on it, but even then people weren't taking it. Even then, because everyone was always in demonic most of the game, right? So it's like, you're in demonic form, why do you need the 5% damage outside of your demonic form? Doesn't make sense. So this talent is a slight DPS increase, but keep in mind, over a 4-minute fight, you get the same amount of time in your metamorphosis with this talent as you would without it. Only difference is you get a single extra use of an I-beam from chaotic transformation. That's the only benefit you're getting out of this talent. It's very powerful, however, but only in very select situations. Could actually, because you have demonic, your metamorphosis up more often, you could technically use it to immune more CC more often. You know, see a polymorph being cast from this mage right here. I'll put a box on his head so you can see he's a mage. No, I'll put the moon. See, he's a mage. So you see this mage right here is casting a polymorph. Well, you can meta, and during this animation while you're in the air, you're immune to CC. So you have to either recast the meta, or by the time he finishes casting it and your meta hits the ground, you can then kick him or CC him to stop the next polymorph. Rain from above, very powerful in 1v1s, very powerful 3s in certain situations. If the enemy team is fighting you, if they're trying to kill you specifically and they're double melee, Rain from above is invaluable. You will never die with this cooldown in such a short CD. It use you to melee damage essentially. You can just pump out damage. Alternatively, it is a tank killing cooldown. You'll be spamming out 6%, 7% of the target's HP every single Fel lands. It's percentage damage and it's magical. It's chaos damage. So if you're hitting a tank with it, if you find some cringy tank in 3s, right, or 2s, you can just use this and absolutely destroy them regardless of your gear, regardless of how tanky they are. They will take the same damage. Of course, very good in 1v1s. And if you're fighting a rogue, for instance, this is a little trick most people don't know about. You can Spectral Sight right before the duel fight begins. You just rain from above before the duel begins with Spectral Sight in the air, and the rogue can't do anything. You can just pew him out of stealth. He either has to pop a cloak, pop a smoke bomb, or vanish. And in either of those situations, he's wasted a cooldown for essentially nothing. Mana Break, very powerful ability. Of course, this is something I would take against a Mistweaver monk specifically. So typically they'll pop their Mana Brew along with Crane if they're running it. And when you know they're running Crane, Mana Brew, it reduces the mana of all their spells by 30%. And of course, this makes their spells increase by 30%. So you can directly counter their Mana Brew every single time they use it with Mana Break, which is why I use it, because it kind of really screws over. It kind of negates their entire talent. That's typically the only situation I would use Mana Break in though. Glimpse, very powerful ability. You can combo it with Desperate Instincts if you really want to. Of course, that means every single time you Vengeful Retreat, you're getting a 50% damage reduction, 50% dodge. This makes you extremely hard to kill versus double melee, but you can use it against casters as well. You see a Greater Pyro flying through the air, Vengeful Retreat right before it hits you. You see a Chaos Bolt flying through the air, Vengeful Retreat right before it hits you. You can really reduce the damage overall that you're taking with this combination. Alternatively, you can just use it by itself. Very good for duels. It gives you the extra survivability in duels that you kind of need. It could be good against RMP as well in different situations, but it's really up to you to kind of know the matchup. Cover of Darkness. Now, Cover of Darkness is very good. It's extremely powerful. It's a kind of the bubble of Demon Hunters. 70% chance to dodge any ability. What you want to do is you see your healer get into a kidney shot, you darkness him, you see your DPS get into a smoke bomb kidney or a smoke bomb stun of some sort, or you're about to die, you just pop down a darkness and you're a-okay, guaranteed to live. Most Demon Hunters don't play this because typically get more value out of other talents in 3s. However, if you're new to Demon Hunter, I'll recommend taking it just because it gives you that extra little bit of support that you kind of need. It's really up to you though. Alright, so we're gonna go right into your gear. So, and I will be showing you guys a few pictures, of course, know what to go and grab. I'm gonna go into Demon Hunter here. If you look at Krogma the Infested, he drops a weapon called the Bile Stain Krogtas. Now, having 2 of these, I don't have them on this alt Demon Hunter, unfortunately. Having 2 of these increases your damage overall by 8%. Having 2 of these, this is your best in slot weapon by far for PvP. It's extremely consistent, it procs very often, and the nature damage is magical, which means your debuff that you do as a Demon Hunter, aka Chaos Brand, actually increases the damage of your Bile Stain Krogtas. And a 440 version of this weapon almost is like an 8k or 6k damage per 3 seconds per stack, which is a lot of damage. It can add up very quickly. I would recommend definitely farming for this weapon. Alternatively, in the same dungeon, you can get the Lingering Spore Pod, which on Demon Hunter is again ridiculously powerful. It gives you a lot of survivability, brings back that like diamond lace tanking trinket kind of playstyle where you're just immortal and they'll never try to kill you. You can even, if you take this trinket, straight up not take soul rending because of how much healing this does. Just take something that's better overall for your build. Specific items that I'll show in this guide, at least. In the next guide, I'm gonna be going over gear more in depth, but those 2 pieces are 2 pieces you definitely want to be trying to get, and I'm gonna be farming them on this alt Demon Hunter. For your enchants, you have a few choices. So you either want versatile navigation, that's one that you almost guaranteed want no matter what. You could go for versatile navigation and force multiplier. That's going to be typically your best bet in PvP. You could also go for Naga Hide and force multiplier, or if you want to be the tankiest you can possibly be, versatile navigation and Naga Hide. That's like your super tank spec that I would definitely recommend taking for a 1v1. For instance, if you're just a dual lord, take versatile navigation and Naga Hide. That will give you the best survivability overall. So definitely try that out. You can also take masterful navigation and versatile for the highest damage increase potential. So every time you have masterful navigation procs, it'll increase your damage by like 9% chaos wise, plus your versatility increase. It's just a straight up percentage damage increase that's the highest for the highest peak amount of burst possible. Also, while you're in the air with a masterful navigation or a mastery build, it actually exponentially increases the damage from your rain from above. So try it out. I definitely recommend it. The last thing we're going to be going over is your stat priority as a demon hunter in PvP. And for this entire expansion, it's been haste versatility. However, once you're at about 440 eye level gear, you have so much haste, especially from your items. You have the engineering helmet, etc., that I would recommend personally trying to go mastery versatility. It's going to be the highest damage increase. It's what I'm going to be doing 100% for PvP at least. It's going to be the highest amount of damage you can possibly do. It's going to absolutely chunk people. You can absolutely destroy almost everybody, and you remain tanky. You have enough haste to still get off your mana rifts. There's a lot of gear that has mastery versatility on it. Typically, until then, you'll want to be going haste, versatility, mastery, then crit. Reason being, of course, is that crit is nerfed by 50% in PvP, which makes it very good in PvE for demon hunters with all these benthic pieces. Very bad in PvP. Only certain classes can use it if they have like whole builds that revolve around crit, like Holy Paladin, right? You need it for your holy shocks. So that's my PvP guide for 8.2.5. I will be doing a revised version, or not a revised version, but a part 2 coming up pretty soon, just of Azerite traits specifically and essences on what to use and why to use and what to use in different situations. Of course, just like this guide. Hope you guys enjoyed, and peace.
Some people call me the space cowboy. Wild West, desperado, rough rider. No, you don't want nada. This